everybody, welcome to the next video. We're going to get into the Orishas. So a lot of you hear Orishas in Afro-Cuban dance and even sometimes in Salsa. You hear of them or you hear certain names. So what is Orishas? What does this even mean? Well, this is a Yoruba pantheon, and a pantheon is a religion or belief system with many different gods and deities. So we know that Yoruba was a group of people in the western part of Africa, and this was their pantheon. This is what they believed in. So there were many different gods. At the top of this chain of command of gods, you had a man by the name of Olorun or Oludumare, who is essentially the creator or known as the Great Sky Father. Another big figure was Orumnila, who was the god of wisdom and divination. And those two were like the big key players in terms of the oral traditions that were passed down, and I'll get into that in a minute. Outside of them, you have a total of about 400 different gods, each god having a different power, or even something in particular, like you might have the god of wheat, you might have the god of fate and individuality, you might have the god of water, you might have the god of this certain lake. So there's all these like different specifications for the gods. And essentially their role was to be mediators between humans on earth and then the heavenly kingdom, so to speak, or the universe, the beings outside of earth. And this is a poster here created by a man named James C. Lewis. And it's a depiction of several different gods, and I'll get into that in a minute. But mostly the Orishas and the stories about them were passed down orally. There's no specific Bible, so to speak, or a certain document that people went off of. There might be texts here and there, but most of it was oral tradition. A lot of the celebrations for the Orishas or traditions consisted of rituals, sacrificing food. They would put out candles. They would have different items in the house that would represent the different gods. Maybe they would do a certain type of dance and just tell stories about the gods. A little background on how the Orishas came to be. Originally, the Orishas lived on Earth. Okay, they were almost human-like, and they were essentially all equal. So you have Orumnila. So remember, we have the two big figures. You had Olorun, the sky god, and you have Orumnila, who is like the god of wisdom. So they were big key players. Orumnila gave out special favors to these 400 or so Orishas. In order to maintain Earth, the Orishas would get a special favor here and there, like to fix something or to make something better. At some point, one of the Orishas said, "Hey, Orumnila, you're always given these special powers here and there. Can you just give us a special power permanently so we each have a job to do and we don't have to ask you again?" So Orumnila eventually did that. What he did was he randomly threw powers down from the sky, and the Orishas tried to collect these powers. So each of them ended up getting a certain power. Maybe some got more powerful ones or better ones. Other ones got not as important powers. Okay, here are just a couple Orishas that you can see. Again, a lot of these images come from James C. Lewis, and some of the other photos come from other sources I found online. So you have Olorun, or also known as Olodumare. He was the great sky father, the creator of the universe. You have Orumnila, who's the god of wisdom and divination. He's the one who dispersed all these powers out in the beginning of the universe, or at the beginning of time. You have Ishu, who's the trickster, kind of like the devil who does a lot of bad things on earth. You have Ogun, who's the god of the warrior spirit. You have Olokun, who is the god of oceans. They also say Olokun was the goddess of oceans. So there's different interpretations of gods. In some places say one's a man or woman or looks a certain way. A lot of different interpretations. You have Shango, who's the thunder god. You have Oya, the goddess of winds. You have Ori, the goddess of individuality and fate. And then you have a whole bunch of other gods. And this poster, again, by James C. Lewis, does a pretty cool job. I think it's well done, but 400 or so gods, each with a different job. So we're going to transition now into how do the Orishas come into Afro-Cuban dance and salsa.